But for this session, it's called Be Our Guest, Reopening Rhode Island's Hospitality Industry. As restaurants reopen, once postponed events get the green light to proceed as planned. But what's really next for the hospitality industry? We'll hear from industry experts as they share reopening and how reopening is impacting their workforce, financial forecast, and outlook on the future. So thank you all for joining us. I hope you're all here. And Heather, I will pass it over to you.
Thank you, Avi. I see a lot of industry friends on the session today, so this is exciting, and hopefully we'll get some great feedback through the chat as well. I am Heather Singleton. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of the Rhode Island Hospitality Association and Rhode Island Hospitality Education Foundation. We are the state's trade association for restaurants, hotels, tourism, and all of their vendors and suppliers that provide some level of product or service to the industry. Very similar to Joe and the Tech Collective, but just specifically focused on hospitality. We have approximately 800 members statewide within our association, and I just want to say thanks for asking me to moderate this panel. I think what we'll start with is if I could have Pearl, Paul, and Farouk each just take a few moments to introduce themselves and the companies that they represent. So let's start with Pearl.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Pearl Farquharson. I am a wedding and special event planner based here in Rhode Island. I'm also the owner of Designs by Delsie, a boutique event planning and design firm, and we serve all of New England. I'm super passionate about the industry. I've been in the industry for over a decade in various sectors. The catering and sales market in Boston, then owning my own fine dining catering company here in Rhode Island, and finally segueing into my own event planning and design company. I see so many familiar faces that I've had the pleasure to partner with, and I'm just really excited to be a part of this conversation today. In addition, I do have a YouTube channel where I teach clients as well as others how to create experiences that spark joy, as well as dining and etiquette tips, because we certainly need that in hospitality.
Thank you, Pearl. And Paul, let's move over to you with the Newport Restaurant Group. Could you just tell us, I mean, many of us on the call, I think, are familiar with your various business locations, but let's give everybody another overview. And Paul, you are also still muted.
There we go. Hi, everyone. Thanks, Heather. Yeah, Paul OReilly. I'm the president of the Newport Restaurant Group, and we're primarily in the restaurant business, but we're also happen to own and operate the Newport International Boat Show, which unfortunately we just had to cancel. And we also are heavily in the wedding and banquet business as well. We have one hotel, Castle Hill Inn and Resort in Newport, Rhode Island. About 80% of our business is in Rhode Island, but we do have 3 restaurant locations in the Boston area. And probably the most significant, unique element of our company is the fact we're employee owned. So we have about 1,000 employees pre-COVID, and it's a big part of who we are in our culture.
Appreciate that, Paul. Thank you. And moving over to Farouk. Farouk, tell us, who are you representing today? Tell us all about your business and what you've been up to.
Well, good morning, everybody. I'm really appreciative of the invite to speak with you today. My name is Furukujab. I am the general manager of the Providence Marriott in downtown. I celebrated this July 28 years in hospitality, and I have to say 2020 has to be the toughest that I've seen. And today, you know, I'm here to speak about hotels and hospitality. Our property has been in the community for the last 45 years. We host events and banquets and parties and weddings and bat mitzvahs and bar mitzvahs, and we have restaurants on sites, and we also have a team of 250 associates pre-COVID that live, eat, and play in our community. So we're here on their behalf as well, and to talk about what the future looks like for our industry, our hotel, and you know, answer any questions that could come up. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you, Farouk. So I've been every day, I've been just keeping track, you know, on my calendar, and today marks day number 129 since March 16th, when the governor announced no dine-in service, no large gatherings, and placed all of those restrictions in place, which needed to happen, by the way. But we are at day 129. I think it's important from our industry to note that hotels were never officially shut down, but due to the restrictions on travel, due to the restrictions on large gatherings and meetings, obviously they took a very, very huge hit there. So just kind of looking back over the past 129 days, since then we've now been able to do takeout dining, curbside pickup, and the like all along. But when we think about from the events industry, travel, meetings, and conventions, in this sweet spot of events, catering, weddings, large gatherings, that sort of thing, I'd like to know, Pearl, what are you feeling right now? I mean, this was, you know, it was almost like you're doing so well as an entrepreneur. I've been following you for many years now. I'm so proud of what you've been able to accomplish. And, you know, you're going on this huge ride, and, you know, you're just constantly moving forward, and you're on this peak. And then all of a sudden it feels like the foundation is just completely ripped out from underneath you. Could you just tell us a little bit about that experience?
Oh, scary. As you mentioned, 129 days ago, we were mandated that we had a cap on a 5-person limit. And so events really, as we knew it, live events became non-existent. And in Rhode Island, weddings alone is a nearly $200 million industry, and one of the top places in the US to get married. So it certainly has had a significant impact on my business, as well as the businesses of my vendors and my other colleagues. And you know, it certainly was a challenging experience, how to navigate you know, I'm a life celebration planner. I'm working with my clients to plan the most important days of their lives. How do you pivot an event, pivot your business, and be the therapist, the financial advisor, the mediator, the negotiator, all of that in the middle of pandemic? It certainly was a character building experience. But I think that I can speak for all of us in the industry. We are resilient. We are creative. We are passionate about what we do. And, you know, it certainly was an opportunity to say, okay, how can we take what we have and make the best out of it? I've, you know, certainly wasn't, I wish that I could say I was planning all of my events that I booked for this year, but no, I postponed about, I would say 80% of it, and about 10% canceled, which means that my capacity for next year and my revenue will be compromised. But in the interim, there were some really great things that came out of this. They're having the downtime to learn new skills, such as virtual meetings and events, and how to incorporate that, but also being that in the time of right now, I think that we all can attest to how our companies, how our employees have dealt with the situation, and the success of that really speaks for the organizations that we've been building from our beginnings till now.
Great, thank you, Pearl, I'm sorry, I'm already leapfrogging on myself. Paul, you had mentioned during the introductions here that pre-COVID, you were at around 1,000 employees. You are an employee-owned company. What do those numbers look like now? And what are your plans? Well, I don't know if about planning, of course. We can pre-plan as much as we can, but everything is still kind of up in the air and unknown. And I think that's the scariest part of all of this. But 1,000 employees pre-COVID, what's going on now?
I think the estimate is probably somewhere around 50% reduction in the size of the company. All our restaurants are open, open with very restricted menus. Some of our places, like in Newport, where they're still seeing some reasonable volume, we're up to some pretty significant numbers. You know, the motivation of the PPP program was helpful to bring back and bring up some of those numbers, but that's not necessarily sustainable for the long run. Unfortunately, we've had to let go of a lot of people in the company, especially at our corporate offices. And it's just the reality of what many of us are going through, where your sales overnight just dropped to, you know, historically low numbers. You know, we're running around 50% of what we used to be right now.
Okay, thank you, Paul. And for Farouk, kind of a similar question. I know before we kicked off this morning's session, you know, when we were kind of saying hello to everybody, we were talking about how you've definitely had to become the chief engineer and the chief groundskeeper. And so could you just talk about the cross training or the skills or the different positions that you've had to step in on your limited staff that you're currently facing, as we're still, phase 3 is good, we're making progress, but we're still in recovery here.
We are in recovery, and unfortunately, you know, the recovery journey, I believe it to be longer than we hope it to be, right? So when we pre-COVID, hotels in Providence enjoyed an average of about 70+% occupancy year-round and hovered around the 90% occupancy in the summers. In March, April, May, June, it stayed in the single-digit occupancy. So we really 5%, 4%, you know. Just think about a hotel that has 100 rooms, selling 4 rooms and 5 rooms will not cover the lights, you know, will not keep the lights on in the building. Right now, with 2 major hotels in the city closed, the Graduate and the Omni still closed. Hotels collectively are just around 10% occupancy in the city of Providence. So that's a significant blow to our industry, and hotels were deemed essentials. We do think of hotels when we're traveling on vacation, but hotels also the place where nurses and doctors stay when they come and help in some cases, or when you lose power at your home due to a storm, that's where all the you know, the workers, electricians, and tree cutters come and stay. So hotels really have multifaceted service to everybody. So we are deemed essentials, and we stayed open, like you said, Heather. But with this significant drop in occupancy, we lost 90% of our workforce that we had to originally furlough, and then we moved to permanent layoff because we can't just keep, you know, extending the furloughs for many reasons. But this, you know, I was talking to a guest 2 days ago, and he asked me if I was the GM because I was really good in fixing the coffee maker that wasn't working for him. And I said, yes. And he said, yeah, you know, I saw you check out a guest. I said, I had to learn that actually, because I never knew how to. I've been doing it for a very long time. And really, last time I worked at front desk as a front desk associate was the year was 1994. 1994 is a long time ago, and things changed technology-wise. So when I had to relearn a lot of things personally, and many of, I am glad that we had the stimulus, and I'm very appreciative, but we also had many associates that chose not to come back during with the stimulus money and all that, because they were making less. And the people that decided to come back or could come back, because, you know, when you go from 4%, 3% occupancy, 10%, believe it or not, you do need people to come back. And the people that came back had to learn different things. You know, I have a sales manager who wanted to come back, and she became a laundry attendant. So she, you know, in the morning she'll go down, do a load of laundry, and in the afternoon she'll come up and help mop the floor in the lobby. So, you know, we all had to wear different hats and learn different things. And like Pearl said, we're fighters. We're a resilient industry. We'll do whatever it takes to go back, and we'll go back. But this go back is going to take a while. You know, it's until there's a cure and until people feel confident that and safe and be on the road, our industry will continue to struggle, and the return to pre-COVID levels is going to take years, not months. And to recover financially from our losses, it's going to, in my estimate, that this is a personal estimate, it's going to be a decade for our industry to recover from this blow. It's been significant and it's hard. But to go back to pre-COVID levels in terms of sales and staffing, I think it's a 3-year.
Thank you, Farouk. Paul, I just want to go back to you for a moment. I know we're talking about workforce. We've kind of moved into the financial discussion here, but it kind of piggyback a little bit on what Farouk said. You've got probably 50% of your workforce back. I know your restaurants are open, although not to full capacity yet. What's happening down at Castle Hill, one of your, you know, huge properties down there that is just, you know, top notch? I don't know if the last time I've been down to have a glass of champagne out on the lawn there, but looking forward to it, of course. Are you seeing similar experiences down there?
Well, at Castle Hill, we're doing what we can. You know, all the operators are, and all the hospitality industries are adapting as best we can and complying with the various restrictions. And people want to come out. Castle Hill is a great spot for that. They feel safe. It's a big open lawn. There's a lot of outdoor dining. So we've done very well with the outdoor dining at Castle Hill. The lodging has been incredibly challenging for us, quite honestly, but we're doing well. People want to come stay with us. It's just it's intensive right now to operate a hotel and lodging in this current environment. Fortunately, we have an incredibly resilient team at Castle Hill, and they're doing a great job. And then the event business has just been, you know, it's very challenging. Again, an incredible group that's making the best of it. And for the events that have not moved over to 21, we're executing within the boundaries of what we're allowed to do. They're going very, very well, but it's a challenging environment for the event industry as well. Combined, those are the three sort of sub-businesses of Castle Hill, and collectively, we're generating some revenue. I think we're generating some bottom line there, but it's, you know, it is nowhere near what it has been historically. And there's just not a lot of visibility, and that's one of the real challenges, I think, for our industry right now is all of us are putting the majority of our energies into just figuring out how to stay afloat, to generate some cash. And we have zero visibility of what's around the corner. And so that makes for a very, very challenging environment for future planning. Any disruptions in the labor market can make our ability to continue to survive and execute very, very challenging. The PPP program was enormously helpful to Castle Hill. And has been to a lot of our businesses. The longer this goes on, the more of those PPP dollars begin to become less relevant, and you could run into an environment again where in the off season where a lot of us are extremely challenged without the PPP on top of losing a lot of the warmer weather seasonal business that typically comes to Rhode Island.
Thanks, Paul. Pearl, thinking about, you know, I'm like, okay, we're at day 129, you know, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. But when it comes to private events and the limitations that you have, it's almost like you're in phase one right now, you know, as opposed to, you know, when I think of phase three, I'm like, okay, from a food service standpoint, you know, the restaurants with the takeout and the curbside, and then we are allowed outdoor dining and indoor dining, and slowly the capacity has been able to increase. But you're, you know, when you kind of put it into the event side of things, live events, so to speak, it's almost as if you guys are in your own phase one. You were talking a lot about how you were using this opportunity to upskill yourself and learn about new opportunities that you could bring into your business. Could you tell us just a little bit more about what you've been doing and the services you've been able to offer to your clients that is, I guess, maybe scaled down to what they would want, but you're still able to give them that high level of service and expertise?
Absolutely. So I completely agree. It does feel like we are in phase one in the events industry. And up until recently, there was very little guidance given to us on what was appropriate and be in compliance with government guidelines as it pertains to events. I'm so grateful that we have received those regulations. Some of the things that we've been seeing in the industry, myself in particular, is that it has become a challenge to address a client who has planned the most remarkable day of their life for a year and a half, 2 years, dreamed about this, and now has to pivot. What we've been able to do here is create what we call intimate wedding experiences, which is still elaborate experiences, but on a smaller scale. These are events for up to 50 guests. We've partnered with several different properties throughout the Northeast to introduce this program to potential clients that still want to have their events this year, but still want to err on the side of safety. Certainly with all of the regulations around surrounding travel, and certainly the very real fear of COVID, we have seen a decrease in the amount of guests attending events. And as you know, events is a sensory, the success of an event is predicated on the ability to appeal to senses, sight, taste, sound. So one of the challenges that we've been seeing is how do we bring people together that aren't able to travel. So I've partnered with a company called Webfully, in which we are able to bring the experience of the weddings and events to the guests who are not able to travel. And now a local event has a global perspective, a global reach, which is now a new term in our industry called local experiences on a global scale. So I'm really excited about that. But as you know, that technology certainly has its own sets of challenges, making sure that the venue has the appropriate Wi-Fi, that my team has the appropriate equipment to exercise that. But in all, it has been certainly well received. And it is also important to know that during this time, the consumers, I feel, are a little bit more hesitant on gathering in larger crowds, even though 50 on the grand scheme of things is what we've been seeing is on the smaller scale. We find that guests are afraid to travel, and there's just a lot of unknown. One of the things that my team and I have been really adamant about is making sure that we're providing communication through various platforms. It was optional for my clients to have a wedding website, for example. Now I almost say it's mandatory. We need to provide that information to guests in order to feel safe. And during this process, the communication with my collaborators, my vendor teams, the venue is super important. We always go through our COVID-19 contingency plan and our action plan, making sure that we're all in compliant. And I feel that we have certainly, my team and I, we have certainly stepped up to say, how can we still provide this great experience, but certainly keeping the health and the safety of our guests and our clients top priority, and certainly employees. And it certainly has been a collaborative effort, but by keeping the experiences small, also just really making it clear about the expectations that COVID will be that the experience will certainly be a little different from a pre-COVID world, and certainly having that expectation, but still working with our vendors, our venue to create an experience that is still top notch. Clients have been understanding. We have been able to have guests still be a part of the experience through technology. And it certainly has been a wave of a roller coaster of a journey, but it certainly is panning out to really pivot to the environment now.
Thank you, Pearl. You certainly talked, a little bit about the technology side of things, and we've got just about 15 minutes left. What I'd like to do is talk about the future and what we're expecting. And I want to start with Farouk. Farouk, I know that, for our industry, we're talking about a lot about, contactless technology. What have you seen happening? Have you had to introduce any new technology at the Marriott? Are you planning on introducing new technology? And what do you think is going to happen in this sector of our industry, at least the lodging sector?
Takes me a while to find the unmute button. But I think as a brand, we, Marriott, been going towards contactless just because that was what was trending, right? So we all live by these devices. So your room key is now on your phone at majority of Marriott hotels. You just have to be part of our Bonvoy rewards. You have to be a Bonvoy rewards member to use your room key on your phone. And that's the technologies available currently at our hotel and many other Marriotts across the globe. So it is, instead of just think about that journey of the guest you can check in on your phone the day before you arrive. You get your key pushed towards your phone. The first time it's a hassle because you got to stop at the desk and do it. But then afterwards it becomes seamless, and you get the key pushed to you. You don't need to, you come in, the doors open automatically. You get through the hotel. You don't need to stop at the front desk. You go directly to your room. You put your phone on on the elevator. It'll take you up to your floor. You put your phone on the door. It will open for you. Of course, you still have the handle to go through, but we're trying to minimize the touch points for our guests. We've also actually pre-COVID added through the same app, the Bonvoy app, we moved from the traditional room service to delivering your meal, your room service meal, and in a disposable bags, recyclable bags that we can get to your room. And the ordering became, we transferred ordering from a phone call to through your app to minimize the mistakes that we make on our end, and to reconfirm that you're placing your order appropriately. So these are the things that we've launched prior to COVID, and they continue to happen. And I know many of us have seen those robots that are, delivering towels and water to your room, and those are very hard to find, by the way, because I've been trying to buy one for the last three months. But there are many technologies that will continue to evolve around touchless. And, somebody earlier was talking about menus, and that does actually exist. And we're researching it here at the Providence Marriott, to where you come in, you scan a barcode, and the menu will pop on your phone, and you'll just select from that. And eventually you'll be placing orders through your phone. And I know Paul probably is an expert in that because the technology is there, and we're working towards evolving our industry into, I go out and I dine, and I try to support all of our local restaurants. And I was dining this weekend, and they brought me the menu, and I looked at it and I was like should I touch it? Should I not touch it? Because it wasn't a disposable menu. And we're in the industry, and I've been working every single day since this crisis has started. But I still was questioning, like, what should I do? Should I touch the menu or not? Because it was not a disposable menu. So we are going to evolve the menus. We are going to evolve how we, the processes that we do and how you get you to your room safely and keep you healthy.
Farouk, just a follow-up question. Aside from, I have seen those robots that you're talking about, that they do the delivery of any housekeeping items that you might need. I've also seen them for food and beverage, room service deliveries, and they're very, very cool. Totally, on board with that sort of thing. Aside from that, are there any other types of, I know you're looking into the the menu ordering or in the menus and the like, but are there any other types of technologies that you're thinking about or you're hearing that might be needed that have not yet been developed?
If there's one needed, not developed, then I would make a lot of money, Heather, right? Because I'll invent it. But there are things that we talk about. We're talking about the guest experience, because the more we create these touchless, points, then we lose that guest interaction and the guest experience. So we are working on technology to enhance the customer service and the and how we interact with our guests. So we, from chats, text messaging, and all those things that are evolving. Also, we're trying to understand how our guest feels about not stopping at a front desk and not grabbing a key and not having this opportunity to communicate with a person. So how do we evolve the guest experience as well in a fashion that technology-based fashion, I guess.
Great, thank you, Farouk. And Paul, tell us about the technology that you guys have. I mean, you've been using it, but new technology. I know there's comments in the chat about the QR codes. I know when I've been out dining, I have seen that. It's very simple. You take a picture and automatically the website opens and the menu is right there. Could you tell us a little bit about what Newport Restaurant Group is doing across all of their units when it comes to technology and contactless connections? And Paul, I'm sorry, could you just hit your...
Yeah, sure. The QR codes is certainly probably the number one innovation inside the restaurants. What we're focused on right now is trying to build in-house delivery. So that's building an entire technological app and program for that. So that's been a big change for us, as well as really improving the web ordering online and bringing it more up to brand. Takeout just became so much more significant and of our business and in general in today's world. So takeout and delivery are the two areas where we're investing into tech right now, with what we call on-brand sort of tech that feels like the Newport Restaurant Group as opposed to an afterthought, which is what I think it was before COVID. And then the delivery is really challenging. There's a lot out there in our industry around whether or not to partner with third party. And we've just decided for the majority of our restaurants right now to take delivery one restaurant at a time and try to go with in-house delivery. So we're building the tech for that. We have delivery right now at our Barcino location in Newport, the Smokehouse in Newport, and then we just opened up a VO in Cranston. So to support that innovation and basically what I call COVID-induced necessity, that's probably been the biggest change. I think longer term, what we're focused on is just this growing reliance on mobile web ordering, people wanting to get whatever foods that they want when they want it. They want to be able to dine when they want it outside of restaurants and off premise. So we're putting a lot of thought into how we innovate as a company as that trend moves forward, and we'd have to build the appropriate technology to meet that market as it's changing. So that's still evolving. And again, while you're still in COVID, it's really hard to know exactly. I think the longer term implications for a lot of our industries, and And I think one of the major changes that's going to be taking place for the hospitality industry is this shift away from driving to an office, and the significant shift that that's going to have on people's commuting times, where they live, residence, lifestyle. I see that as a massive long-term shift after COVID, and we're still trying to, gain visibility on how ultimately to play that out in our company, and then to build the appropriate technology to meet it.
Paul, there's a comment from Avi in the chat here. Avi, do you want to go ahead and ask this question directly? I think that would be cool.
Oh, okay. Thank you, and thank you to all. Plenty of questions in my head, so I'll try to limit them so there's opportunities for others. But yeah, just thinking, Paul, your restaurant group focuses on in-person dining experiences, and for the most part, the either fine or mid-range dining. Are you exploring how you might expand in the future? Is this going to be into delivery only or takeout restaurants?
Yeah, I have looked into the idea of the ghost kitchen. That's one of the things that we have considered. It's a bit of a buzzword out there. I think right now, getting our existing kitchens tooled up and ready to execute a growth and takeout and delivery within the existing structure of the restaurants themselves, managing the menus and managing the team inside the restaurants to just understand this is going to be a bigger part of our lives is our first step. Longer term, understanding, is this our niche? Can we get into more takeout and delivery only locations? We haven't really come to that yet, quite honestly. I think it's a possibility, and that we could see the evolution of our company heading in that direction. But I also think there's always going to be a niche for full service. People are always going to want to be able to sit down and have a full service experience. And that's what our sort of core offering is and where our culture is still. And I think in all likelihood, that's where we're going to continue to remain.
Thanks, Paul. So we have just a few minutes left. Farouk, I'd like to just ask you just final thoughts from you as we're still in phase 3. Hopefully we're going to move into phase 4 soon. And even just, the next 10 years down the road, what are your wishes? What do you hope happens with the industry?
I wish COVID disappears, but the reality about our industry is that it is the hardest industry, or that takes the longest time to recover. And I ask everybody to recognize that fact, the need to support your local restaurant and support your local hotel, and go out and travel locally. I've always, and I'm guilty of it. I've had planned vacation annually, a week in the summer and a week in the winter, and I've had the best time this year, spending days in my local town, and coming up to Newport, or going to many of our, Charlestown. There's great areas that we can visit and explore. So the industry will recover. It's going to take a while. It's going to take longer than many other industries. And we just need everybody to rally around the hospitality industry and support it, because your local restaurant needs you. The Newport hospitality restaurants need you. We need you, and the hotels need you. And if you think about a vacation, consider staying in the greater United States of America, I guess, but definitely Rhode Island.
That's great, Farouk. I think all of us would certainly support that. We are so lucky here in our tiny little state. We've got over 400 miles of coastline and all these pockets. You could be hiking a trail in northern Rhode Island in the morning and then end your day down at the beach having fish and chips and, fighting off the seagulls, of course. But I think there's just so many cool, great things to do in our own backyard. And it does, who can do that in any other state, right? Who can say that you're, riding a horse, taking your kid? I see Jeremy from the zoo on the call here, right? I mean, you could do everything in just a couple of days. So certainly do the staycation. One final question that I have, whether it's Paul or Pearl or Farouk, if you want to jump in here, is there anything that you're thinking of that Venture Cafe or the folks on this call could help us with, aside from, you know, visiting your local restaurants and hotels and supporting events?
I think sharing. I believe in sharing information, and if you take what we talk about here and share it with 10 friends, every participant, we have 32 participants, and if we take what we've discussed here and share it with 10, then we'll have 320 people that might share it with another 10 that make us 3,200 people. I'm not good with math, so I'm not going to keep on going, but sharing that about, you know, supporting the industry and helping the industry, speaking to your, I know Kristen is coming up next, but, you know, speaking to your local legislators and understanding that there are many other industries that rely on us and depend on collaborative work. And we need everybody's help to bring back hospitality into Rhode Island, and to bring back this industry that is I believe it's the engine of economy in our small state. So that's my final thought.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Farouk. Just a quick statistic for everybody. If our industry, and I say hospitality because we're considered, according to the Department of Labor and Training, as a super sector, because we represent lodging, food service, tourism, and of course, as I said at the beginning, all of those additional support services, vendors, and the like underneath there. But as a super sector, if we were to go away, every single household in the state of Rhode Island would pay an additional, it's just under $2,000 in taxes per year if we go away. And that's something that hits every single one of our wallets. But I'll thank you to Farouk and Paul and Pearl, and thank you to Avi and Tuni and Amy and everybody at Venture Cafe for having us.